Friday, October the 12th, 2012. A young woman is getting ready for a date. She picks an outfit. She fixes her hair. She checks her phone again. Her name is Audrey, and she isn't just anyone. She is Miss Ohio, USA. The man she's meeting is a lawyer she found on Facebook. Tall, funny, smart, a little older. Exactly the kind of man who seems to have it all figured out. His name is Ryan Poston. The plan is simple. A quiet little bar, a couple of drinks, maybe a game of pool. 10:30 at night comes around. Audrey waits. No Ryan, no text, no call, nothing. She figures she's been ghosted. It stings, but it happens. Except she wasn't ghosted. And months later, when a court subpoena landed in her hands, she would finally learn the truth. Ryan didn't stand her up. Ryan was already dead. To understand how this ends, you have to understand who Ryan Poston was. He was born just before New Year's 1982 in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. His parents split when he was a baby, but here's the thing, it didn't break him. His mom remarried a kind man named Peter, and the three adults raised Ryan together so well that he loved both of his dads. When he grew up, he even changed his middle name to honor his stepfather. That's the kind of heart we're talking about. Ryan was the only son with 3 sisters, and the whole family was tight. On his way out the door, every single time, he kissed his parents and said, "I love you." He was also, frankly, a genius. His dad used to joke that Ryan's favorite book was the dictionary. He went to private schools all over the world, the Philippines, then Switzerland, while his stepdad worked for a giant company overseas. Then he came home and earned not 1, not 2, but 3 college degrees. And law? Law ran in his blood. His grandfather practiced for over 50 years. His uncle was an attorney too. So Ryan went to law school, passed the bar in 2 states, and by 2012, he had done something most young lawyers only dream about. He opened his own firm. He fought for ordinary people, car crash victims, injured folks, the kind of clients who'd get steamrolled without someone in their corner. And he treated them like family. Answered the phone day or night. Worked till 2 a.m. on their cases. Outside of work, he drank Woodford Reserve bourbon. He played chess. He loved arguing about philosophy. 6'3", sharp suit, brown hair, blue eyes. The kind of guy who walked into a room and people just listened. He had a little dog, a Maltese Yorkie mix named Oliver. His clients adored him. They told his father that Ryan made them feel heard. Like in that moment, they were the only person on earth. His legal mentor said Ryan was going from 0 to 100 faster than almost any young lawyer he'd ever seen. Some of his friends genuinely thought he might run for Congress one day. That's the cruelest part of a story like this. It's not just that a life ended. It's everything that life was still going to be. The career, the family he'd have had, the people he'd have helped, all of it erased. And when you ask the people who loved him to describe him, they don't lead with brilliant or handsome. His own father said it best. "My son," he said, "has a kind heart." Ryan Poston had everything. A career, a future, a family that adored him. Everything, except the ability to break up with one single person. In March of 2011, Ryan got a Facebook friend request. The woman's name was Shayna Hubers. She was 19, a University of Kentucky student, and on paper, she was just as impressive as he was. Shayna grew up in Lexington, the daughter of a schoolteacher. From a young age, people called her a genius. Gifted programs, academic awards, a singing voice so good she got into a prestigious program for it. She graduated near the top with a psychology degree and was heading into grad school for counseling. She was also, by every account, gorgeous. Long brown hair, blue eyes, a striking smile. But people who knew her noticed something too. As polished as she was on paper, in person she could be a lot. She talked about herself constantly, and she took it hard, really hard, whenever a relationship ended. None of that makes someone a killer. Plenty of brilliant people are self-absorbed. Plenty of us take breakups badly. I'm only telling you because, in hindsight, it's the first faint outline of a pattern. Funny enough, they almost mirrored each other. Same coloring, same brains, same good looks. Ryan noticed her photos. He sent the request. And for about 3 weeks, they just talked. Messages back and forth. The fun, electric, getting-to-know-you kind. And here's the part I keep coming back to. On paper, these two were a perfect match. Two smart, beautiful, ambitious people. If you saw the early photos, you'd think, lucky couple. That's the thing about this story. The danger never looked like danger. Not at first. In April, they finally met in person at Shayna's birthday party at a bar in Lexington. And the chemistry, by all accounts, was instant. Laughter. That dizzy first-month feeling. Soon, they were dating. There was just one problem. And at the start, it seemed small. Shayna lived almost 90 miles away, so they couldn't see each other much. Instead, they texted. Remember that word, texted, because in this story, the phone is almost a character of its own, and it's about to turn into a weapon. For about 8 months, Ryan and Shayna looked like a happy couple. A little long distance, sure, but happy. Then, around November of 2011, the cracks started to show. Friends began describing them with a phrase you've probably heard before. On again, off again. They broke up. They got back together. They broke up again, at least 3 times in just 5 months. Each breakup was short. They'd patch it up fast. But the people around them started noticing a pattern, and it wasn't a healthy one. By Shayna's own admission later, she was far more into Ryan than he was into her. And it showed. Now, I want to be fair here. Lots of couples are mismatched. One person catches feelings faster than the other. That's just being human. That alone doesn't make anyone dangerous. But there's a line. On one side of it, you have someone who loves a little too hard. On the other side, you have someone who can't accept the word no. And Shayna was about to walk straight across that line. Because every time Ryan tried to step back, Shayna stepped closer, and closer, and closer. Let me show you what closer looked like. Shayna started showing up at Ryan's law office, even when they were broken up. Sometimes she'd bring lunch, like it was sweet. Other times, she was just hunting for him. If she couldn't find him, she'd wander the building, looking. She had a key to his condo, and she'd let herself in, uninvited, no matter what their status was. Remember, she lived 90 minutes away. That's a 3-hour round trip to stand inside the apartment of a man who didn't ask her to be there. It got so bad that Ryan threatened to put a padlock on his own front door, and when she couldn't get to Ryan herself, she'd contact his neighbor and ask, "Is Ryan home? Is he out with other women?" Then there were the texts. According to reporting on the case, for every one message Ryan sent, Shayna fired back around 100. 100. Sit with that number. That's not affection. That's surveillance. Now here's the detail that breaks my heart. Ryan's dad, Jay, used to come over a few times a week to help clean because Ryan was a bit of a slob. And Shayna would just be there, sitting on the couch, not speaking, not leaving, even when Ryan asked her to. Jay later said it was like there was a ghost in his son's home. He thought to himself, if this were my daughter, I'd march down and get a restraining order today. But here's the cruel twist. Under Kentucky law at the time, Ryan didn't qualify for one. To get that protection, they would have had to be married or living together. They weren't. So the law that's supposed to protect people from exactly this had nothing for him. Think about that for a second. A brilliant lawyer, a man who knew the legal system inside and out, and the system had no shield to offer him because he didn't fit the box. And Ryan? He had one fatal flaw. He hated confrontation. He didn't want to hurt her feelings. A man who could shred any opponent in a courtroom froze in his own living room. This is where toxic turns into terrifying. Because Shayna didn't just want Ryan. She started fantasizing about what she'd do if she couldn't have him. One day, she texted a friend who was a dentist. She wanted Ryan's dental work ruined. She said, "Make him ugly so he'll never get another girl." And then there was the shooting range. Ryan loved target shooting. He kept guns and ammo in his condo, honestly scattered around, because he was messy. He even carried a loaded gun on him at all times. On one date, the two of them went to a shooting range together, and while they were there, Shayna texted a friend. She wrote that she wanted to turn around, shoot him, and make it look like an accident. Her friend said, "Be careful, no accidents." Shayna replied that she'd try not to. Her friends would later swear it was just dark banter, just joking. Maybe it was. People say wild things. But here's what unsettles me. When someone jokes about the exact method they'll later use, that's not a punchline. That's a dress rehearsal. And nobody around her treated it like one. There's more. While she was obsessing over Ryan, accusing him in her head of seeing other women, Shayna was the one seeing other men. In her own messages, she talked about being in love with someone else, about one day having to choose between Ryan and another guy. She even texted a friend about catching an STD and wondered out loud who she'd gotten it from. It's almost Shakespearean, isn't it? The jealousy, the double standard, the woman terrified of being betrayed, doing the very thing she feared. And her feelings about Ryan were curdling in real time. Near the end, she texted a friend that her love for him had turned into hate. She called him a loser in messages to other people. One time, things got physical from her side. Ryan actually threw her out of his condo without her purse, and she had to knock on a neighbor's door just to call someone for help. She wrote that Ryan told her he was only still with her because he felt so awful every time he tried to break up. Read that again. He wasn't staying out of love, he was staying out of guilt. And guilt is a leash she knew exactly how to pull. The relationship that started with sparks was now running on suspicion, control, and threats. And Ryan had finally, quietly, decided he was done. October 2012. Ryan left a funny little comment on a stranger's Facebook post. She'd asked for movie recommendations. He made her laugh. That stranger was Audrey Bolte, Miss Ohio USA, and second runner-up for Miss USA that very year. They started messaging. It was light, it was easy, it was fun. Everything Shayna no longer was. They swapped numbers, they started texting, and they made a plan. October 12th, a low-key bar, drinks, and pool, a fresh start. The little details of that plan are almost unbearable to know now. They'd first set it for 9 p.m., but Audrey pushed it later to 10:30 because she had a family funeral that day. And in their texts, Ryan asked her a simple question: should he change out of his suit and tie? She told him yes. That's it. That's the whole reason he likely drove home that night, to swap a suit for something casual, for a first date with a woman who made him laugh. Such an ordinary, hopeful little errand. For Ryan, Audrey represented a door opening, a way out, a future that didn't involve a 90-minute siege every weekend. He had no idea that door was about to slam shut forever. Because here's what Ryan didn't know, what nobody knew until investigators found it. Shayna had been watching Audrey for months. Back in January, just 2 days after Ryan and Audrey became Facebook friends, Shayna searched Audrey's name. She searched it again in June. And then, 2 days before the murder, Shayna saved a photo of Audrey to her phone. Let me say that plainly. Days before she killed him, she was studying the face of the woman he was about to date. That's not a coincidence. That's a fuse already lit. The night before he died, October 11th, Ryan did something that, looking back, makes you wince. He invited Shayna to his family's home to watch the vice presidential debate. I know, inviting your ex to family dinner is the exact opposite of a clean breakup. Ryan kept sending mixed signals, and I won't pretend he didn't. But mixed signals are not a death sentence. Nothing he did makes what's coming okay. It just tells you how tangled and stuck he was. That night actually started well. Ryan had huge news. He'd finally settled a stressful lawsuit with a former law partner. His stepdad said Ryan looked the happiest he'd been in months. His whole future was clicking into place. And then, as usual, he and Shayna had a fight. A loud one. Neighbors had heard them fight through the walls before. By the end of the night, Shayna seemed to finally understand it was over. But it was too late to drive home, so she stayed on his couch. That night, she called her mom, Sharon, saying she felt sick, maybe even having a stroke. Sharon panicked and drove all the way from Lexington in the middle of the night. When she got there and begged Shayna to go to the ER, Shayna's symptoms had mysteriously vanished. Prosecutors would later suggest this was a performance, one more way to pull on Ryan's attention, to keep his eyes on her. Hold on to that idea, because performance is going to become the theme of this entire case. The next morning, Friday, October 12th, Sharon helped Shayna pack her belongings out of Ryan's condo. Ryan locked himself in his bedroom just to avoid her, so Shayna picked the lock with a bobby pin. All the while, she was flooding his phone with apologies, message after message saying she was sorry, that she'd just been emotional. Then Shayna and her mom went to a mall. Afterward, Shayna told her mother she was going to leave for a friend's house. Her mom gave her some gas money, some aspirin, and drove off to visit family. And Shayna lied. She did not leave. Let's rewind to the last good hours of Ryan's life. At 5:40 that evening, Ryan chatted with two lawyer friends as he packed up for the weekend. They'd known him for years. He was his usual self, joking, relaxed. 20 minutes later, at 6 p.m., he called his uncle. His uncle said Ryan sounded happy, upbeat, relieved about that lawsuit. Ryan mentioned he had plans with friends later. He just needed to swing home and change out of his suit first. That detail haunts me. The only reason he likely went back to that condo was to change his clothes for a date. A man at the happiest point of his year, stopping home for 10 minutes. Now, downstairs, an older couple lived in the condo directly below Ryan's. At about 8:45 p.m., they heard a woman crying out on Ryan's back deck. Then they heard a chair scoot back. Then, 2 gunshots. A pause. Then 4 more. And somewhere in there, a thump, like a body falling. No screaming before it, no furniture crashing, no sounds of a struggle, just a woman crying, and then 6 shots. At 8:53 p.m., the phone rang at 911 dispatch. On the line was Shayna.
Campbell County 911. Ma'am, I killed my boyfriend in self-defense. Okay, where are you at? I'm at 12 Meadow Lane, Highland Heights, Kentucky. 41076. Is it Meadow, anything else? Meadow View or something? No, 12 Meadow Lane, ma'am. I killed him in self-defense. Okay. Tell me again what unit you're in. It's not showing in my computer. Hold on. What did you kill him with? A loaded gun in the house. I laid it on the bookshelf. I'm standing about 10 feet from his dead body. Okay, are you sure that he is dead? He's dead, ma'am. He's completely dead. Okay. And how long ago did you shoot him? I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, not even that long. 10 or 15 minutes ago? Yeah. Okay, what's your name? My name is Shayna Hubers. Are they going to arrest me? Ma'am, I don't know what they'll do. We're going to send him out. I'm going to stay online with you, okay? I mean, I'm not a murderer, ma'am. I just killed him. What happened exactly? What happened?
And there was something else. By her own account, she didn't call for help right away. She waited. Around 15 minutes, she'd later say. And the first person she called wasn't 911. It was her mother. It was her mom who told her to hang up and dial 911. 15 minutes. A man bleeding on the floor, and the instinct wasn't to scream for an ambulance. It was to call home first. I'll let you sit with what that suggests. The police arrived within minutes. They took Shayna into custody and put her in an interview room, on camera. Almost right away, she asked for a lawyer. And then, without anyone pushing her, she started talking. For nearly 3 hours. She told anyone who walked in about the abuse she said she'd suffered. About self-defense. She said Ryan had been throwing her around the room like a rag doll. She said he was high on pills, that his blue eyes had turned black. But the longer she talked, the stranger it got. At one point, alone in the room, she said out loud, "I'm so good at acting." She did little spins, actual pirouettes. She sang. She snapped her fingers. She chanted to herself that she did it, that it was her, that she killed him. The officers watching the live feed had a nickname for what they were seeing. They called it the Shayna Show. And then came the line that defined this entire case. She told them she'd shot Ryan in the face and given him the nose job he always wanted. I've thought a long time about how to describe that sentence, the cruelty of it, the pride in it. This wasn't a terrified woman who just survived an attack. This was someone performing a role and enjoying the reviews. There was a problem with her story, too. It kept changing. First the gun was in his hand, then it was in a cabinet. Then she picked it up off the table. First he went down after 2 shots. Then, minutes later, she said he was still coming at her after being shot in the head. And one detail stopped the investigators cold. She admitted she had released the safety on the gun before she fired. To the police, that wasn't self-defense. You don't calmly disengage a safety in the middle of being thrown around a room. That's a decision. That's intent. At another point, she told an officer she didn't want to go to prison, that she didn't think she deserved to. She insisted she'd gone over there with the best of intentions, to work things out, to love him. And maybe that's the most chilling thing of all. Not the dancing, not the singing. It's that even with his body still in the next room, the person she seemed most worried about was herself. Here's the thing about a crime scene. People lie. Rooms don't. Shayna said Ryan had hurled her into the television and a bookshelf, but the TV was completely fine. In fact, it was dusty. Nothing had touched it in ages. The bookshelf? Every little knick-knack on it was perfectly, undisturbedly in place. She said the gunfight happened in a scramble at the dining table. But on that table, the pill bottles were standing upright. The loose bullets were standing upright. Things that tip over if you so much as bump them, untouched. And Shayna herself? A little bruising on one shin, almost nothing anywhere else. Investigators figured that if a real struggle had happened at that table, his arms would have knocked everything flying. Nothing had moved. Then there was the door. When Shayna fired, the unlocked front door was directly behind her. Think about that. If a man twice your size is attacking you and the exit is at your back and it's open, you leave. You run. You don't release a safety and fire 6 times. The autopsy filled in the rest, and I'll spare you the worst of it. Experts believed Ryan was likely shot 3 times while sitting, and then 3 more times after he had already fallen. There was a trace of his blood on the gun itself, meaning at least one shot was fired up close, closer than across a table. The picture investigators landed on was grim and simple. At some point, she moved toward him to finish it. And the neighbors downstairs confirmed the worst part of all. There was no fight before the shots, just crying, then gunfire. And here's a detail that says everything about who Ryan really was. The night before the murder, those same neighbors had heard a woman crying out on that back deck too. And they'd heard a man's voice answering her, gently, telling her it was okay. It's okay. That was almost certainly Ryan, comforting the woman who would kill him less than 24 hours later. Even at the end, even trying to leave, his instinct was to be kind. It cost him his life. It took until April 2015 for the case to reach a jury, 2.5 years. By then, this case was everywhere. A beautiful young woman, a handsome young lawyer, a killing. National outlets sent reporters. There was no mystery about who pulled the trigger. Shayna admitted that from the very first 911 call. The only question for the jury was why. The prosecution's answer? This was not self-defense. This was cold blood, a jealous rage triggered by one fact. Ryan had a date with another woman, and their strongest evidence? Shayna's own words. They played her 911 call. They played her interrogation with all its dancing and chanting and confessions. Then they did something that, frankly, sealed it. They called 3 of Shayna's fellow inmates to the stand. Now, usually you should be skeptical of jailhouse witnesses. Usually they get a deal for talking. These 3 women got nothing, and they told the same story, that Shayna had bragged about the killing, that she laughed about it, that she showed no remorse, that she'd faked crying on jail phone calls while winking and smiling at them. One of them testified that Shayna described the moment itself. He was sitting at the table, his gun on it, and she picked it up, said something. He smirked, and she shot him. Another said Shayna admitted she'd given herself bruises and thrown things around the condo to convince neighbors that Ryan was the violent one. The court also heard from a psychologist. Shayna's real IQ was 125, genuinely brilliant, top few percent. She'd bragged to an inmate that she had the IQ of Einstein. She didn't, but she clearly believed her own mind could outrun anyone in that courtroom. The same evaluation found traits of narcissism along with other diagnoses, but the psychologist agreed none of it excused murder. The defense fought back the only way they could, by attacking Ryan. They painted him as a stressed, pill-using, gun-obsessed man whose career was crumbling. A man who, they argued, snapped and attacked a much smaller woman who had no choice but to shoot. They even tried to argue she basically lived there, hoping to use Kentucky's Stand Your Ground law. Here's why that mattered. Stand your ground means that in your own home, you can use deadly force to defend yourself, even if you had a chance to escape. You don't have to run. You can hold your ground. So if the defense could convince the jury that Shayna lived in that condo, the open door behind her would stop being evidence against her. To sell it, they pointed out that she still had toiletries at his place. But it fell apart. Shayna had told police her address, and it wasn't Ryan's. By her own mother's account, they'd been moving her things out that very day. The defense also dug through Ryan's own texts to paint him as a troubled man. They highlighted a message where Ryan told a friend his mind had a kind of tripwire and that he worried what might happen if it ever snapped. They pointed to messages hinting Ryan may have once misused prescription pills, but most of those were never allowed in. They were from months before his death, and there was reason to believe he'd already stopped. After a 9-day trial and 40-plus witnesses, the jury went out. They were back fast. Guilty. A juror later said they'd agreed on her guilt almost immediately. They spent most of their time deciding the sentence. Their recommendation, 40 years. Then Ryan's family spoke. One of his sisters said her heart felt like it was crumbling in her chest, that there would always be an empty chair, that she never got to say goodbye to her brother. The judge said something that stuck with everyone in that room. In the whole trial, he never once saw a look from Shayna that said, "I'm sorry." For Ryan's family, it was finally over. Bittersweet, they said, but justice. And then, in January 2016, it all came apart. One of Shayna's lawyers was reading through the case file when a name on the jury list jumped out at her. She recognized one of the jurors. Years earlier, she had represented him for a felony. He'd failed to pay child support back in the early 90s. He pled guilty. In Kentucky, that's a low-level felony, and in Kentucky, convicted felons cannot serve on a jury. Here's the heartbreaking, almost absurd part. The man had no idea he counted as a felon. He could barely read. His girlfriend had helped him fill out the jury questionnaire, and at the felony question, they simply checked no. He genuinely thought felons were people who went to prison, and he'd just been behind on payments 2 decades earlier. He said he was actually proud to serve on a jury, the first in his family to do it. But the law didn't care about his intentions. The conviction was thrown out, and in August 2016, the court granted Shayna Hubers a brand new trial. The whole country seemed to hold its breath. Was a convicted murderer about to walk free on a paperwork error? The juror himself faced no charges. No one believed he'd lied on purpose. He'd simply never understood that an old, forgotten child support case made him a felon in the eyes of the law. And that's the strange, maddening beauty of the system, isn't it? The same rules that protect the innocent can also hand a killer a second roll of the dice. It's not fair. It's just the price of having rules at all. Imagine being Ryan's father. Imagine living through that whole trial, the verdict, the relief, and then being told you have to do it all over again. He called it a wound that just wouldn't heal. Then the retrial was delayed for 2 more years. Shayna brought in a new, out-of-state attorney who needed time to learn the case from scratch. So the family waited. Again. August 2018. Nearly 6 years after Ryan died, Shayna Hubers went on trial for his murder a second time. This time, she made a fateful choice. She testified in her own defense. It did not go the way she hoped. On the stand, she admitted the things she'd spent years dancing around. That her behavior had been possessive, controlling. That when Ryan tried to leave, she flooded him with texts. That she sometimes messaged him from a different number because she knew he wouldn't answer if he saw it was her. That she'd searched his phone for proof of cheating and blocked other women through his Facebook. The defense leaned heavily on the intimate details of their relationship, trying to recast Ryan as an abuser. But the prosecution's case was, in many ways, the same one that had already convicted her once, except this time they had a new witness, a worker from that mall, the one Shayna visited the day of the murder. The worker remembered her, said Shayna came in visibly angry, upset that her boyfriend was going on a date with another woman, and said Shayna told her, out loud, that she was going to kill him. The worker hadn't gone to police back then. But after years of TV coverage, she recognized Shayna's face and came forward. This jury deliberated for about 3.5 hours. The verdict was the same as before: guilty. This time, they recommended a harsher sentence: life in prison. The judge agreed and said her actions that night were grossly violent and calculated to cause Ryan's death. She would become eligible for parole around the year 2032. She'd be in her early 40s. 2 juries, 3 years apart. Different lawyers, different witnesses, different city energy in the room. They reached the exact same conclusion. That tells you something. Today, Shayna remains in prison, serving that life sentence. And even now, her mother stands by her, still insisting her daughter acted in self-defense. That she has, in her words, a heart of gold. A mother's love doesn't switch off because the world has seen the evidence. I don't blame Sharon for loving her child. But love and truth are 2 different things. And 2 juries decided which one this case was about. I want to tell you what Ryan's father did because I can't stop thinking about it. Weeks after the murder, Jay went back to his son's condo. He lay down on the floor in the spot where Ryan died, and he screamed. Then he got up and he cleaned the walls himself, a father scrubbing away the last physical trace of his only son. He kept Ryan's little dog, Oliver. He says he sees his son's spirit in that dog. He said the hardest part is the guilt, that if he ever lets himself feel happy again, it'll feel like a betrayal of his boy. Ryan's old elementary school started a scholarship in his name. It goes to a 6th grader who shows kindness, compassion, and caring for others. His old law school started one too, because that's the word everyone used about Ryan. Not brilliant, not handsome, kind. After the second verdict, his family put it in a single devastating sentence. They said they embraced justice and yet felt no joy. 6 long, heartbreaking years without their beloved Ryan. And every year, on the day he died, his family and friends gather at his grave. They share stories, they pray, and they raise a glass of Woodford Reserve, his favorite, to the sky. Now, I want to step all the way out of the story, just for a minute, person to person. When we picture a victim of domestic violence, we almost always picture a woman. And most of the time, that picture is right. Study after study finds that false abuse reports are uncommon, usually estimated in the low single digits, well under 10%. When someone says they're being abused, believing them is almost always the correct, decent thing to do. This case is the rare exception. And the exception doesn't break that rule. It proves why the rule matters so much. Because Shayna didn't just kill Ryan. She tried to murder his reputation too. She used the idea of abuse, the very thing real survivors fight to be believed about, as a weapon. Every false claim like hers makes it a little harder for the next real victim to be heard. That should make us angry, not at survivors, at the people who exploit them. But there's one more piece, the piece almost nobody talks about. Ryan was the victim, and he never reported a thing. A confident 6'3" successful lawyer, stalked, harassed, threatened. And he kept telling himself he should just handle it on his own. Even his own father assumed his strong son didn't need help. Men get stalked, men get abused, and far too often they stay silent, because somewhere along the line we taught them that asking for help isn't manly. If Ryan had felt he could pick up the phone, to the police, to a friend, to anyone, without feeling weak, maybe there's a version of this story where he's still alive. And here's the hardest truth of all, the one I wish more people understood. The most dangerous moment in an obsessive relationship is not the fighting, it's the leaving. That's when control slips. That's when, if I can't have you, no one can, turns from a thought into an act. Ryan was finally leaving. He had a date that night, a fresh start, a door opening, and someone made absolutely sure he never walked through it.